And moving to our next session, we will have 4 experts talking about the energy provider of the future. Before that, we'll be playing a quick video, and don't be surprised if I look a little different after the video, because our co-founder and managing director, David Balenziefen, will be moderating the next panel.
One could argue that the concept of green tech started as early as 2000 BC, when the Egyptians started designing buildings with passive air conditioning systems. However, it really came to the fore in the early 2000s, when businesses and investors started to realize both the importance and potential of green technology, like solar panels, clean energy fuel cells, biofuels, and demand response services. Over the last 20 years, the green tech market has experienced a massive boom. In a similar manner to fintech improving innovation and services in the banking sector, green tech has arisen out of the need to accelerate forward-thinking, climate-friendly solutions in the energy sector. Environmental technology and resource efficiency are key to reducing carbon emissions without spending huge sums of money on the development of new infrastructure, while also maintaining or enhancing customer satisfaction. The green tech global market volume reached a historic high of 4.6 trillion euros in 2020, and is expected to reach 9.4 trillion euros by 2030, equivalent to an average growth rate of 7.3%.
Of this, the volume for energy efficiency was the highest at 1,224 billion euros. This was followed by environmentally friendly generation, storage, and distribution of energy, and then sustainable mobility.
Digitalization in the energy industry is key to add a layer of intelligence and make energy more integrated, reliable, efficient, and sustainable. Smart demand response could provide 185 gigawatts of system flexibility globally, which could save $270 billion of investment in new electricity infrastructure that would otherwise be needed. While energy is a commodity if you only consume it, it becomes a completely different and more complex product once you have large, shiftable loads and also produce energy yourself. As a result, electrification and decentralization are driving the demand for new models. Within this changing landscape, new players and models have emerged, such as Energy as a Service, or EaaS. This is a delivery model that combines hardware, software, and services. Energy as a Service solutions combine demand management and energy efficiency services. They encourage the adoption of renewables and other decentralized supply sources, and they also optimize the balance between demand and supply. EaaS is becoming more feasible through technological advancement, as improved data analytics allows service companies to better serve customers. Using new technology, energy service providers could bundle energy advice, energy assets installation, and energy management. But will this be the dominant model of the future? How can we integrate new and traditional players? And where do prosumers fit into the equation? In short, what will the energy provider of the future look like? And who will assume which role?
Hi, also from my side. Happy to be back and good morning. Really excited about the second day, also the last day of gridXdays. And today we are talking about who will be the energy provider of the future, and following kind of the previous panel, moving to a decentralized system. Today is the question, we are moving from a centralized power system to more a decentralized distributed one. We see more and more distributed energy resources such as PV systems, battery storages, and also EVs in the market. And then it's also accelerated by the trend of sector coupling, meaning mobility is going to be electric, heating is going to be electric. And the question we try to answer today is, who will be at the end the key customer-facing, maybe also fully integrated energy company in the future. And I'm happy that I don't have it to answer by myself. I have 4 amazing guests today, and I would welcome my first guest, Christoph. Christoph is the co-founder of Sonnen, and Sonnen is the global market leader for residential storage systems. And I think now today also a fully integrated one-stop shop energy provider. And he started his career early on as an entrepreneur. I think with 18 years he founded his first company, and in 2019 then eventually sold Sonnen to Shell. And earlier this year he left Sonnen as CEO, and happy to have you here on board. Hi, Christoph.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Perfect. Our second guest is Christian Deilmann. Christian is the co-founder of tadoº, and prior to founding tadoº, he worked at the venture capital company called Target Partners. He co-founded another company called Bell Pepper and worked also in consulting with A.T. Kearney. He holds an engineering degree from MIT, and now he's mainly responsible for products. So he's, I think, pretty aware of what customers want and what they don't want. Really happy to have you here on board. Hi, Christian.
Hi, David. Thanks. Great to be here.
Perfect. Our third guest is Lina Wölm. She leads internal and external communication at the startup Zolar, and is responsible for strategic brand building to establish a consumer brand. And prior to Zolar, she was head of marketing and communication at the AdTech company Blista. Hi, Lina.
Hello, everybody. Thanks
Hi.
for having me today.
Perfect. And last but not least, Simon. He's the co-founder of aWattar, a new energy service provider based in Vienna with the focus on dynamic tariffs. And yeah, he started his career as project manager as the World Business Council for Sustainable Development in Genf, and also worked for E.ON, mainly as head of business development at E.ON Climate and Renewables. Welcome, Simon.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Perfect. Maybe just starting right into the panel discussion with Christoph, maybe. Christoph, so you really kind of led Sonnen from, I would say, more a hardware manufacturer to a fully integrated energy provider, which then sold also electricity to your customers. So my first question would be, what kind of initially triggered you to kind of broaden up your product portfolio to provide a portfolio of solutions to your customers? And my second question would be, what do you think attracted Shell to buy Sonnen then in 2019?
Okay, I'm not so sure if I can answer the second question, but let me try. But let's start with the first one. I think what led at the end of the day our company development from a pure hardware manufacturer and hardware company towards a more integrated solution provider was the fact that, I mean, in the beginning, you need kind of a product as the center of your offering first, right? But then you start thinking, what else can we do for the customer? At the end of the day, a hardware provider is, in my eyes, somebody who has his own product in the focus and in the center of all thoughts. Once you start thinking about your customer, you're moving towards a more customer-centric approach, and then you think about what else does the customer needs, and you develop more and more and more towards a full solution direction, which is good in many ways. First of all, hardware tends to commoditize sooner or later. We can see it in many respects. Take photovoltaic PV, for an example. PV module manufacturers, today it's a commodity. You have price pressure, you have margin pressure. And once you start offering a solution, take the customer really in the center of all initiatives and activities, you add value, you add emotional value, and you add value for the customer as well. And this gives you a way stronger position in the marketplace and makes you less vulnerable towards competition and the big guys from China, Asia, America, wherever they're coming from. Yeah? So this is my view on the first part of the question. The second question, why was Shell interested in buying Sonnen? I think the general topic for Shell is obvious. You all know about the court decision a couple of weeks ago. So the big oil companies all need to move, and Shell is one of the few that really want to move, and even recognized that way before this court decision. So what Sonnen can offer is a customer-centric approach towards the residential end customer. And at the end of the day, around the Sonnen battery, you have EV charging solutions, you have the Sonnen community with grid power, you have other possibilities and other devices. And this is exactly where a company like Shell needs to be, having a very strong downstream business today with hundreds and thousands of gas stations. I mean, a gas station will, as a matter of fact, with the ongoing trend of electrification of private mobility, disappear. Yeah? People will charge in the office, will charge at home. And this is why I think Sonnen is in a spot where companies like these need to be in the future.
Perfect. Maybe speaking about customer centricity, Lina, so Zolar's mission is to install a photovoltaic system on every rooftop, and honestly, which is not a small feat. So why would a household decide for solar instead of going to like a local electrician and to get like the whole setup installed by them?
Yes, first of all, every company I think needs a big mission. I know it's a big step, but big missions need to be done. Yes, you know, I have a brand background, obviously. But yes, why should someone actually buy it solar? I mean, of course, I think as everyone knows, we have digitalized the buy and sell of solar systems. We have created, we started with the solar online configurator, so it's very easy and accessible. It's very transparent. I think everyone knows how complex PV systems are. It's not just buying something like a perfume online. It's a real big decision. So we have made it very easy, very transparent, and also very supportive. And also at the same time, we work hand in hand with local handicrafts businesses. And also that's one of our major goals as well, to drive digitalization among those local businesses. Mm-hmm. And on top of this, in regards to, or comparison to local businesses, meaning installers, we can actually offer very competitive prices, working together with those local businesses, but also with bigger suppliers. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think also the major trend probably plays in your cards. So the energy and sustainable is more and more a mainstream topic, and I think people really think about energy transparency, but also about cost savings. So Christian, how do you see your customer base and all the customers out there? Are they really looking for smart energy systems which help them to save money and also to be more efficient?
Yes, I mean, it depends. So basically, I mean, currently, if you look into our customer group, we have installed 1.5 million smart thermostats and respective heating, air conditioning systems, which we connect and which we bring to the internet. And if you look into all of our customer base, then about a third of them is looking to gain energy efficiency, to have a lower cost of the energy bill. Another third bought tado'r to improve comfort. And the other third essentially is just super interested in high tech, in new innovations, in connecting it with your smart home, with the Amazon Alexa, etc. So that's our current customer base, and it's as we go more in the mainstream. So over the last years, we were in the early adopters. So you go more in the mainstream. I think it will be more on the comfort and the also the energy side. However, it must be the proposition must be very, very easy to consume and to understand. So the last years were the early adopters. It's this one third, and going forward, it's the combination of cheaper cost of energy combined with a comfort and a very user-friendly approach.
And I think also speaking of early adopters, so I think dynamic tariffs also for consumers are in some areas a little bit earlier on, but I think from a system perspective, we have quite big fluctuations of renewable energies. So Simon, what needs to be done to enable more dynamic tariffs for customers, also maybe on a regulation point of view, but also from a technical point of view?
Yeah, well, it's actually true that when you start out like we did, to try and improve the energy system in a decentralized fashion by introducing more flexibility to the pricing system, it's not something that you can necessarily be hugely successful in the beginning by having a customer-centric approach, because no one even, like when we started out, no one even knew that the power prices could go up and down by hour, which is essentially what we introduced. And in fact, there are some barriers. It actually would be great if it was just about convincing the customer, because there are a lot of very good reasons to have a dynamic tariff. In fact, we think that it will be some form of dynamic tariff will be a standard for certain applications like electric vehicles and heat pumps, for sure. But in terms of the regulations on, there are definitely some barriers still. Markedly, I mean, the smart metering infrastructure is the biggest hurdle. I mean, there's been quite some debate on that in Germany, and in fact, the hurdle has been put quite high by the government in terms of data security standards. And from our point of view, it's of course completely too slow, and too much focus on security and therefore high costs. But I think we're now getting to a stage where the benefits are starting to outweigh the costs. I mean, we will be introducing new tariffs that use the new smart meters in Germany, for example, and there'll be additional benefits that come from that. And we're confident that will convince more and more customers to switch.
I think we will see that pretty soon. Maybe a question from the audience just came in, and that's probably in Lina's direction, and also probably Christoph has a strong opinion on that. So the question is, how big is the threat of lacking manpower for PV installation for solar and others to kind of reach your mission and vision?
Are you referring to installers?
Yeah, exactly.
Probably, right?
Yeah, to
yes.
installers.
I mean, of course, we all know that's a demand everyone is seeking for, but I mean, the solution that we're offering is that we work together hand in hand with local businesses, and I think that's the approach that we need to go. I don't know, Christoph, what do you think about this? Well, that's a pretty...
Yeah, I think this is, for the general market as such, it's a challenge. My experience at Sonnen is that our installer network could potentially grow faster. Sales was not the bottleneck, it was really installation capacity. And we all know that there is a shortage, let's put it this way, a shortage of qualified craftsmen. The number of installers is stagnating, whereas at the same time, there are pretty ambitious plans regarding EV charging infrastructure installations, regarding solar, regarding storage. I mean, you name it, and try to get an electrician for yourself, for your home, for whatever. Yeah, I mean, you must be extremely lucky to get one within the next couple of months even. And I think this is a general problem we have to work on, and maybe this is rather an industry problem than a company problem.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely agreed, but I think that the main fact is also that we see more and more prosumers in the field, so people kind of put more PV systems on the roof, or really are curious about installing EVs or charging station at home. So my question to you would be, are you seeing that at maybe in 10 years time horizon, that most of the people or households in Germany will be prosumers, or where do you see like the boundaries of being a prosumer or centralized system versus decentralized systems?
I mean, if
Okay,
I can just briefly say, maybe, I mean, I think that's, anyone with a roof pretty much have some kind of access to PV, because we think that it will be so cheap, it will be so much better, to have free energy from the sun, because the cost will have gone down so much that of course not everyone will have really the infrastructure in terms of people who live in shared like a flat kind of building. You have to share the roof with others. But if the transaction costs of that keep coming down as well, I think it will really 10 years from now we will see a lot of PV.
Yeah, and to add on this, I mean, it's also a restrictional and governmental question, because I mean, you have first laws taking into place when you think about new builds and stuff. I mean, that will be a push on this. It took them a while, but now it's happening. And speaking about other technologies, smart home technologies and stuff like this will all increase for sure.
Yeah, maybe that's a good point. Yeah, I really see that more and more people are talking about these kind of solutions, smart home, smart thermostats, about PV, but why is not everyone on board so far? What is like the main issue? And maybe, Christian, what are the barriers for that at the moment? Or do you think that there needs to be done on a regulation point of view, anything?
So overall, I think also when we started as tado'r like 10, 11 years ago, our idea is to offer a combined energy proposition. So an energy contract together with a smart control, and together it will be much better than the standard way of having a standard heating system, a standard control, and a standard energy tariff. And so this was our vision from the very beginning. And also now, I believe it should be provided as a bundled package. So basically a smart energy tariff. So using all the flexibility topics, what Simon mentioned about market prices, etc., in the background, and combining it with the intelligent control. And so therefore, I think in the future, it will be bought together. And that's what we're working on also with our partners, with our utility partnerships, to basically helping them offering these combined propositions, so that in the end, customers can enjoy comfort at a much lower cost of energy. So that's kind of where I think this whole thing goes. So the last 10 years or the last years, like early adopters bought these smart controls because of excitement, essentially, whether this was for comfort, savings, or tech enthusiasm. But going forward, I believe it will be combined propositions. And what is the problem here? I mean, we're working with these utilities, and I think they just don't have the strongest sales DNA. They come out of a monopoly market. They were basically not used to really sell, especially not hardware products. So therefore, it's this shift is happening. So that's, I think, one element that our partners, our go-to-market partners here, don't have the strongest sales DNA. And I think what we can work together with them and as an industry to make the propositions even easier to understand for consumers, and then it's even, hopefully, I guess, also easier to sell. So I think it's these two topics mainly, which will help.
I think adding on this, what you've said, is education. It's really pointing out the benefits of those things. It's also trust. I mean, there are many data topics out there. You don't know what's happening with all your data. You have those press articles about Alexa, collecting whatever you say and stuff. So I think it always comes back to trust as well. But then also on top of this, I mean, not everyone is 25 and is, grew up with using apps and stuff. So it's also convenience, user experience, really lower the barriers of putting those tools and stuff and devices into your life.
But my question would be then, so Lina and Christian, so when can we expect an own electricity contract by Zolar and by tado'r? Huh? Because that would be a logical step.
Obviously, I wouldn't tell you now that my press release is burned. So.
Okay, but that's basically what you are working on, or can you share something? Because we try to answer today the question, who will be the energy provider of the future? And I think we have really good stakeholders from different areas, from a more, I would say, fully integrated company like Sonnen is today. And then tado'r, as I think Christian pitched, you have over 1 million devices in the field. You have a large customer group. And you said your partners have a lack of power when it comes to sales. And I think Zolar, you have a very strong value proposition in making solar systems accessible for everyone because it's easy, configurable online. And then, of course, Simon, you're coming more from the electricity part. So my question would be, what would be, or how you see yourself and maybe also your peer groups in the future?
I think maybe if I can answer one element here, I think the value in the future is the intelligent flow of energy in this smart grid. I think who manages this well, all the different elements, and then also understanding the customer really well in order to provide the maximum comfort or mobility, whatever they need. I think this is where the value is. The piece of just energy retail as the traditional companies do it, this is not really where the value is. And there are two ways of, for us, there are two ways of going to market. One, it's enabling the utilities to shift to become an energy utility of the future. Of course, becoming an energy company ourselves. Currently, we clearly have the strategy to enable utilities to transform. But we believe that the value is in the energy management side and the flow of energy in the grid, but also locally on the consumer or on the household side, for example.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Maybe because we are all coming from, would say, more the challengers. So we kind of challenging the old players like utilities, automotive OEMs, and try to capture as much value as possible. And my question would be then, how do you see, I would say, the old dinosaurs like utilities, but also the new market entry players such as Shell, like oil and gas majors, automotive OEMs? Because at the end, they're fighting all for the same customers. And what do you think makes like your kind of approach unique? And maybe also speaking about the old players or the new old players entering the market, what they maybe could also provide, what we as maybe younger companies can't provide.
Well, maybe I can start on it. I mean, I'm the sort of person who comes at least partially from the sort of the dinosaur world, where I've worked for E.ON before, and also we are an electricity provider. So your other guys are all hardware companies. We're sort of in a way we're at the core of the traditional sort of industry, and we have to deal with all the processes, that switching processes and then billing processes and so on that the dinosaurs are dealing with, and they have built systems that can do that, for millions of customers. But the fact is that there are a lot of changes actually coming into the system to enable all these new models. And I mean, we would actually like the changes to be quicker, but I guess the dinosaurs would like them to be slower to some extent, because they have such big legacy systems that they cannot adjust so quickly. And I think that is the scale is an advantage and a disadvantage at the same time. I mean, we would like to have some 10,000 customers more, than to basically, maybe be able to offer even better prices. But at the same time, we have this flexibility to adjust to the new ways and also to really introduce new business models like a variable tariff, for example. And I think that it has to play out in the market. I mean, I think it will also depend a lot on the partnerships. Some of the big companies may have the advantage also to do everything themselves, try and buy up others and basically control the value chain overall. But I think one can achieve a lot also with good, strong partnerships, bundling up products, like Christian has mentioned, and basically bringing sort of the innovative forces to bear, to really create good solutions for customers. I think the market will tell.
Yeah, like always.
I think we as startups have the great opportunity that we have nothing to lose. We can only win, right? So the big corporates, from my point of view, they celebrate and protect their risk-based management approach. And if you have a risk-based management approach, I wonder where the opportunities are. And if you try to do everything, to do nothing wrong, and you focus really on this question, you can't do anything right either. So this is a little bit, from my point of view, the largest hurdle that I see on the side of the corporates, that the company cultures and the company structures are really focused on not doing anything wrong in order to protect their business models, in order to protect their reputation, in order to protect whatever. But if you only try to protect, you can't conquer anything. And this is where I clearly see the advantage of agile startup companies, despite of the fact that, of course, there's a mismatch of resource availability. But fortunately for all of us here, you can't solve every problem simply with throwing money on it. That is how I see it, briefly.
Mm. Speaking about resources, there was a question from the audience. I can't read the number exactly, but I think it's 100,000 or 1 million green jobs missing now have been killed by German politics. How can we intervene at the root? So I think that's a question from all of the audience. I don't know, Christoph or Christian, who's willing to answer that?
Christoph, do you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see that politics are really destroying jobs. I think that it is up to us. I mean, it's the entrepreneurs creating jobs, and there are so many opportunities. We have for sure the disadvantage that we live in a very regulated environment. Energy business is simply regulated. And I remember very well the early days when we had discussions going on and really on-off situations about subsidy for storage systems. Well, I think the best support we can wish or ask for regarding policy is that we have kind of stable frame conditions, that the politicians are not changing on and off all the time the incentive scheme, because simply, I mean, when the discussion comes up about incentives, the market is standing still. Nobody is buying anymore unless the decision is taken. And I think the rest, if we have stable market conditions, the rest is really up to us.
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree on this point. I think to achieve a energy transition to a more renewable, sustainable world, I mean, either we have a CO2 tax or we have a tax on fossil fuels like oil and gas, and then the rest should be solved by the market. So, I mean, about 2 years ago, we went fairly deep into this Gebäudeenergiegesetz and tax law, etc. And it was it's crazy. I mean, they define like which technologies get which subsidies, but not like this, but like that. How should a politician really know what is the best for a building and which technology should be subsidized and which should not be subsidized? So therefore, I agree. I mean, they should not go into really the technology selection, but rather set a general framework, for example, putting a CO2 tax or a tax on fossil fuels, because as a society, we say we want to go sustainable. I think that's then a good way of doing it, leaving the rest to the market and to the innovative companies and startups and big companies, and finding out solutions how to solve the problem best.
Yeah, absolutely. But still, sometimes politics are the bottleneck that certain business models won't work. So there's a question from the audience: what are the policy challenges to the integration of prosumers in the grid? So yeah, the fact is we have over, I think, 1 million prosumers in Germany right now, and I think the whole real integration into the energy market, also for trading flexibility, is really hard. And if you look in detail to the business models, you will find out that's really hard to match. My question would be, what needs to be done? Maybe regarding Simon or Lina, or who wants, because I think that's probably a question you have all to handle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, then the potential needs to be, still unlocked, as it were, because the infrastructure is somewhat lacking. And I mean, we're talking about different things. I mean, there's PV. I think integration of PV into the market is probably to some extent already there. But I think when people talk about integration into the market, it's a lot about the flexibility and being able to participate, offer your own flexibility to the market, and of course also, I mean, for PV to create sort of maybe more competitive feed-in tariffs. But overall, I mean, if you, even for lots of use cases, even the peer-to-peer trading, the flexible tariffs, if you want to do reserve market or whatever, there needs to be this metering question. It's a very boring sort of question in a way, but it needs to be solved. And it has to be said that Germany has got it quite wrong so far. It's a sad thing to say, but there's really a lot of discussions going on that are not where things are not issuing into a solution, and it's quite difficult to summarize now exactly what needs to happen. I think at least some legal certainty will come back into play now with a new change, and then at the same time you need to bring down the costs of this, bringing in the metering solutions, and make better compromises between data security and just providing very simple data. I mean, quarter hourly consumption values is what you need for most use cases, and you don't need a super crypto sort of approach for that to make it work. That's our view, and there are some issues also that need to be addressed in terms of not just what we're doing with flexible power prices from the power exchange, but also the grid sort of usability, or the grid flexibility. Big discussion between the car industry in Germany and the grid providers, and the reason there's such a sort of difference in views led to the fact that that there's no solution now before the change of government, and it throws us back a lot. I mean, it throws back e-mobility and so on. People need to realize that these sort of transactional nitty-gritty things really need to be sorted, and before this can really reach the full potential to reward an electric car for charging at the time when there is a lot of power in the local grid, and not to charge when there is everyone else is charging. I mean, it's not such a difficult thing. But yeah, the transactional process seems to be quite difficult to come to an agreement there. Maybe it's also the culture of really finding pragmatic solutions. This sort of German approach of overthinking everything.
The German bureaucracy.
You need to get to the point and just sort it out. But it's easy to say, much more difficult to do it.
Yeah, talking about bureaucracy, Christoph, I think you were probably one of the first companies with Sonnen being kind of able to provide primary reserve control, and I think that was really a big hole to drill. What was like the major experience in providing? I think that's really it's needed flexibility in the system, but it's so hard from a legislation point of view. What was your approach and your main learning?
My main learning is expect the unexpected. I mean, it really was an extremely challenging process of almost 2 years. It took us 1.5 years, 2 years to get the regulatory work done. The problem was, and I believe even still is, that there is not a standardized process with predefined process steps. You simply need to get the consent of involved players, of the TSOs, right? And how you do it, yeah, it's a totally different question, because there's no procedure defined, there's no timeline defined. You can just go to them, talk to them, and nobody's in a hurry but you. Yeah? Nobody is in a hurry but you. And this is a little bit the problem here. So it was a very explorative process, which was extremely challenging for our patients, for our budget, and I mean, also for our understanding a little bit. But finally we got it, and I would not recommend, don't try it at home. My recommendation is don't do it.
Okay. Simon, did you want to add something, or?
No, I mean I guess interesting to hear this. Don't do it at home. But I mean, I guess there are some. We sometimes sort of. When we see another smart metering sort of guideline, and that would probably raise costs further, we sort of think, okay, well, maybe we have to wait a bit more, do something else in the meantime. But there is, I mean, I think that there is a way emerging, and it's probably not in this. I mean, the primary reserve is what traditionally the very big power plants have been doing, because it is very easy to sort of go up and down a little bit and doesn't cost them much. And that's also the approach that the TSOs are taking. They want exactly the same requirements as the big power plants used to fulfill in the past. I think that some other use cases that require only this, the holy grail for aWattar in a way, the quarter-hourly consumption data. You can do intraday, and you can do day-ahead flexibility and so on. Maybe the focus on that will be enough, because you just basically need a proper smart meter, and there are sort of standardized processes for that. And I think we just have to keep believing, and we'll get there.
Absolutely. I think one of the good things about being an entrepreneur is that we are all naive. We are naive, and if we were not naive, we would not try certain things. And it's good that we do, actually, because by this we move also regulators forward, right? And I mean, this is the nature of innovation, to be a little bit naive, and then to say, okay, I'm glad that we made it finally, even if it was difficult.
Absolutely. A question, Lina, from the audience regarding you, or to you. What is currently holding back private homeowners, to buy and install PV systems, heat pumps, and so on? Do you have an answer for that, or do you see it completely different?
I don't see it completely different. Obviously, there are many people that do that, but there are many reasons, right? One could be money, could be cash, how to finance this. Then also could be depending on how old is that house actually. If they have old house, then it's a big barrier to actually do that, because then you have regulations. I mean, federalism in Germany, every state has different rules, and it's very complex if you want to get support. So that's and also I think at the end of the day, it's also a very complex topic you actually have to deal with. It's not, as I've said at the beginning, it's not something that you just do in 5 minutes. But the reason why a lot of people do that is just to become completely independent, also from big energy providers. Others want to make a climate impact. That might also be a reason on the downside, that they don't believe in renewables. I really don't think that's the biggest group, but there are many reasons, starting from the architecture, starting from laws, starting from bureaucracy. Yeah.
I think a big problem here in Germany is actually the rate of ownership when it comes to private property. If you look to Australia, for example, where you have a way higher penetration of the residential space with residential PV, people simply own their house. And this is not true here in Germany. I mean, we have still a lot of renters, and if you rent a house, it is not obvious to put a PV system on the house, which then becomes part to the house that you don't own. And the second thing is multifamily homes is also still a segment which is not pretty well exploited yet. So from my point of view, this is one of the main general things, and we need to keep that in mind if we think about the reasons for market data.
And another question from the audience, and I think that's a perfect question for Christian, because you mentioned earlier on that in the future the main value creation will lie in the capabilities to kind of control flexibility and to provide additional energy services. The question from the audience is, will utilities in the future will be making more profit because they can offer more energy services and sell more electricity to their customer base?
I mean, I think yes. I mean, so as if you have an energy proposition and you have the capabilities of what, for example, Simon is doing, and maybe together with some demand response service, which Christoph had set up with sonnen, maybe other aspects of energy communities, and you combine all the benefits in the background, because in this energy proposition you have the capabilities to control, to steer, to manage, to shift loads, etc. Then I think this utility can offer a much better energy proposition, and therefore I mean, then the business model is maybe, for example, you offer a fairly cheap or relatively cheap tariff, and you can afford this because you have these capabilities in the background of the trading and the load shifting, etc. And then maybe on top you can put some subscription, maybe some energy management subscription, because the customer is saving so much on their final energy prices. So therefore, I believe yes, that energy companies can do much more profits when combining the intelligent energy management solutions with the energy proposition. So I think you can make it a more attractive proposition, win more customers, and at the same time make more profits.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And maybe it's probably not related directly to this topic right now, but in question from the audience, do you foresee a role of hydrogen technology for grid flexibility and to balance the grid, or how's your perspective on hydrogen?
Well, one perspective is definitely that it I mean, if you have big electrolyzers, in a way, it can actually contribute to dealing with flexibility, because when you have a lot of excess power, you just dump all of that excess power into the electrolyzer, and you're happy that you have negative prices for your electricity and so on. The only problem is that in order to be economical, these things, I'm not an expert on that, but they have to run for a long time. I mean, you're not only going to load them when you have excess power, you need them also to run a bit longer. And then you start to get into a thing where it's actually more like a base load thing. But I think that there are probably ways of making that work, but probably more for the sort of large scale applications than the decentralized applications that we're talking about.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Sorry, one small comment to add. So, I mean, we come from the heating space. The heating space is a lot really dominated by gas. So, and you can put quite some hydrogen into the gas network, the natural gas network. So I think this makes a lot of sense. So wherever you have a wind power plant or a solar plant and some excess electricity, produce hydrogen and pump it into the gas grid. I think that's a pretty good way. But of course, that's not like one bullet or a solution. It's a mix of different things, but this is one use case which I see as pretty good.
Maybe zooming in and kind of traveling in the future, maybe in 10 years ahead, and we will meet again. What do you think will be at this time, maybe in Germany, but also in Europe, the largest energy provider, and what kind of company is that in your perspective? Is everything the same market, same players, or do we really see new challengers and also to disappear classic players? Maybe starting with Lina, what is your perspective maybe in 2031? Who will be the energy provider of the future?
Well, obviously, I can't tell you that, but I really hope it's not the status quo as it is from today. I really believe that a lot of things will change in terms of M&As, companies building more complex offers and structures to really react on the whole trend of prosumerism. I really believe that partnerships will be explored and will grow. So yes, but I can't tell you a concrete player right now, if it's not us, of course.
Maybe Christian, how do you see it? Do you have maybe a clear perspective on that, or what you would guess? It's not about knowing, it's about guessing and having assumptions.
So I think someone who has a very close relationship to the end customer, really understands the end customer, is in continuous contact with the end customer, has a very strong position to basically leverage on this opportunity which I mentioned earlier in regard to intelligent flows of energy in the grid, but also locally. So therefore, this access to the consumer, understanding the consumer is, in my perspective, a key part of who will capture a strong part of the value in the future.
Simon.
Well, I might add actually that maybe contrast to some beliefs that you can digitalize everything and you can make the whole experience totally global, or the company can be global that offers this. I think that also with the experience now of having moved or having sort of conquered in a way the German market from Austria, there will still be, with energy delivery, there will still be a local element. It's not like you could be a company like Tesla or whatever that sells globally pretty much the same product. With energy, you always have this interaction with the grid. So 900 grid operators in Germany, you have to have a contract with all of them, and it's probably better in other countries, but you have to have this interaction. And I think it also helps with the exactly what Christian says, to have some kind of at least local or national feel to you, because energy is always something that is somehow locally connected.
Mm-hmm. And last but not least, Christoph, do you have an opinion on how the energy provider of the future will look like maybe in 10 years, and who this could be?
Yeah, I think nobody can tell who this would be. I think it's an extremely interesting question. I'm more optimistic for some players and less optimistic for others. Despite of the fact that this is an interesting question, I think it's not really a relevant question. A relevant question simply because of the fact that CO2 neutrality is a no-brainer and it's not stoppable anymore, simply because of the fact that it's price competitive already today. And only because of this price competitiveness, it's not stoppable anymore. And the most important point for all of us is not which brand, which company will it be. It is simply the fact that it will be a green and way greener future we are heading to. And this is what I find is the most important and good news for all of us.
Yeah, and maybe if I can add here, it's probably not like one company, it's also the collaboration, also amongst different applications. So mobility, heating, grid, production, and it's like solar, etc. So this all needs to work together. It's not like one company is going to manage this whole thing all together for Europe, but it's a collaborative approach.
Absolutely.
This goal, which you just mentioned.
Couldn't agree more.
Perfect. I think a very good closing word. And so let's keep on working together on this whole journey to make energy transition happening. Thanks a lot, all of you, Christoph, Lina, Christian, and Simon. Thanks a lot for your time. It was, I think, a very interesting panel. And yeah, thanks a lot. Have a great day and stay tuned.